I'm sorry. Okay, well, don't be too mean. This is my first YouTube video. I am here to promote my stories, rough draft versions, yay, in an attempt to gain some social platform in my story author career. Anyway, don't mind me, I'm just mentally hilarious. Okay, so let's get started. First things first, though, I do believe a disclaimer is in order, considering the fact they're not kid-friendly. Definitely don't bring your kids to any of these YouTube videos at all. At all. Because they are for mature audiences only. Granted, there's no sex scenes, but there are a lot of violent things like mentions of self-harm, aftermath of slasher movie violence, lots and lots of blood, murder by a serial killer, I guess more blood on that one, scenes of violence, action, basically, yeah, it's kind of action-y, and it has a scene of abuse, so please continue at your own risk. Anyway, I am promoting my Reaper Adventures. That's upside down, so we'll do this. Oh shit, no. I had it right the first time, oops. Reaper Adventures, The Search. Actually, no, we have it right this way. I'm a blonde on the inside, please be patient. Shut up. Anyway, we're gonna be doing this chapter to chapter, and we're gonna be trying to post this every week, so if not, you can get on my ass about that. Forgive the curse words, I do have a bit of a potty mouth. So we're going to start with the prologue, and then we're going to go through chapter 1 and continue from there. And, oh shoot, chapter 1 is kind of long. Anyway, prologue first, and then continue on to chapter 1 and post chapter 2 next week. Okay, here we go. Anyway, Reaper Adventures, The Search is what it's called. That's number 1, because there's going to be 7. Maybe. We'll see what happens. Anyway, the prologue. Just say prologue because it's the prologue, and it kind of sets the atmosphere. Let's get going. There was a new bookstore in town. No one knew exactly when the construction had been completed, or when the 3 individuals who now worked there had moved to Jeromeson. All they knew was the bookstore was new, as well as the people who had moved and now worked there were new. The people who had been inside the bookstore decided that they would return there, as well as recommend it to others. There were books that ranged from children's books to sex education. In the back of the bookstore, there were CDs, DVDs, and now coming back in style, vinyl records. To the right side of the bookstore, there was a cafe. There, you could either sit inside and have some coffee, or whatever beverage you preferred, while reading or just watching the people. In the warmer weather, there was to be an open patio outside, should anyone want to go outside and enjoy the weather when it got nicer. The cafe worker was an 18-year-old female. She had dark red hair, dark blue eyes, and pale skin. She had a well-endowed chest, a narrow waist, and wide hips. Along with her smile, which seemed constant, she was always full of energy. The people who had their coffee, dessert, and book knew she was Scottish. Her accent was faint on rare occasions, but more often than not, her accent was more than slightly noticeable. The cashier in the bookstore was 19 years old. He had dirty blonde hair, brown eyes, and pale skin. He wore glasses that people guessed were simply 2 monocles that had been welded together. He didn't talk much and wasn't much fun for many people. However, he was scarily smart to the point where people wondered if he was secretly a genius. He had a faint British accent that didn't seem to ever become more noticeable. However, being British individuals would be wary of the tone of his voice, simply because there were times when they were unsure if he was privately insulting them or not. The manager, as well as the owner of the bookstore, appeared to be 20 years old. Though her height suggested younger, people would notice her figure, apologize profusely, and attempt to figure out how old she really was. She had raven black hair that was always pulled back, jade green eyes, and light tan skin. People would always assume correctly on her nationality. She had no problems answering if she was Chinese with a simple yes. She had a well-endowed chest, a narrow waist, and wide hips. There was one new individual who had moved to town with the three at the bookstore. No one had really seen him. He didn't work at the bookstore, and no one really wanted to go to Jeromeson morgue to welcome him either. According to the three at the bookstore, the new morgue technician had no complaints about his lack of greetings. He didn't seem to want to be too well known, according to them. That's the end of the prologue. Hopefully my voice isn't too horrible. Soda. So we're going on to Chapter 1. Chapter 1. Cerberus was silent, staring at the leaves that had changed color and were beginning to fall. He seemed unaware of the three individuals sneaking up on him. Cerberus sighed softly, twirled the leaf he had caught earlier between two fingers, and tilted his head to one side. The three individuals, who Cerberus knew were their foes as they realized that he knew they were there. They exchanged a glance between the three of them, and the 19-year-old cashier nodded once to the 18-year-old barista, and the owner and manager of the bookstore. It was now or never. Ao, the 18-year-old barista, swallowed with nervousness as an athame with a wolf jaw bone handle appeared in her hand. Bart, the 19-year-old cashier, who was holding a spear that had hooks near the point designed to easily catch and disarm any opponent. Wow, my voice is fucking up. Bao Yo, the owner and manager of the bookstore, was holding two fans that had daggers embedded along the places where the fans folded. She was the only one who appeared to be calm, though she wasn't calm at all. None of them had managed to beat Cerberus or overwhelm him with their numbers or by force. Cerberus tilted his head in the direction of Bao Yo, Bart, and Ao, and then released the red and yellow leaf, letting it fall lazily to the ground. Bart, Ao, and Bao Yo leapt towards Cerberus then, knowing that he would expect them to strike to seriously injure or kill. Oh, by the way, you'll get information on this part later. Cerberus smiled slightly and ducked down, swiftly dodging Ao's attack, and struck Bart's spear, disarming him with ease as his long braid whipped around and hit Bao Yo across the face. Ow. Because Cerberus' hair was heavier and thicker than anyone assumed it to be, it caused Bao Yo to stumble and blink back with an unintentional welling of tears. This is why these are rough drafts. By the time Bao Yo had managed to blink back the sting of tears, Cerberus had already defeated Bart and Ao. Bao Yo only registered that fact just as Cerberus effectively and swiftly knocked Bao Yo out. Cerberus sighed and then crouched down on his heels, patiently waiting for them to regain consciousness. Bao Yo was the first to rouse from her forced slumber. She slowly sat up with a soft groan. She blinked herself back to the present, saw Cerberus waiting for Bart and Ao to wake up. Bart regained consciousness next and sat up, clutching his now healed nose, which Cerberus had broken, and speared Bart's brain with the nose bone. More detail on that later. Ao was the last one to regain consciousness, her body moving slow as her neck finished healing. Bao Yo, Bart, and Ao looked at Cerberus as she got up and stamped the circulation back into his legs. Training is done. I have to be at work soon, Cerberus told the three individuals before him. He headed out of the woods, Bao Yo, Bart, and Ao following him. They were silent as they knew that it would take far more power than they currently had to defeat Cerberus. Cerberus, the first Reaper bound to the human realm. The only Reaper who is almost as powerful as Death himself. There's your explanation. Cerberus, who had taken the three Reapers following him under his wing. Bao Yo had been the first Reaper he had taken under his care. She was from China's first dynasty and, like most Reapers before Death, had died horrifically and traumatically. Cerberus had been the one to remove the soul from her body and had realized that Bao Yo was a Reaper. Bao Yo had gratefully learned as many lessons Cerberus had taught her. She had remained by Cerberus' side ever since the beginning of her existence as a Reaper. Bao Yo Xin, or Bao Yo, would always remain by Cerberus' side. Bartholomew Alexander Wellington III, or Bart, as Cerberus called him, had been the second Reaper Cerberus had adopted, so to speak. Bart had also died a horrible and traumatizing death. Bart was from the early medieval ages of England. False alarm. The firstborn son of the governing noble family, Bart had always had the logical thinking, and he had completed his tasks with the utmost efficiency that his parents had attempted to have after their firstborn son's horrific murder. Dun dun dun. Bart had been difficult and hard-headed at first, but had eventually become grudgingly grateful for Cerberus's lessons and odd kindness, though Bart was still hesitant at times around Cerberus. Ao O'Malley, or Ao, was the last Reaper Cerberus had decided to take care of. Ao was the youngest Reaper in the group, only younger by Bart by 200 years. She had no memory of how she had died, and Cerberus had told Bao Yo and Bart to wait until the day that memory returned. They had been waiting for Ao to remember since her existence had started as a Reaper. Though they wanted to tell Ao how she had died, they also knew to keep their word to Cerberus that they would wait. After all, it wasn't as if any of them really discussed how they had kicked the bucket as a human who had lived before dying and becoming a Reaper. Not a fun topic. They returned to their apartment and entered it, ignoring the glance directed at Bart from their neighbor. Bart began to clean the dried and drying blood from his nose as Ao began the teapot for Bart and Bao Yo. Ao then filled the coffee pot and started it to make fresh coffee. Coffee. Bart emerged from the bathroom, his nose clean and blood-free as the teapot began to whistle. Ao grabbed the green tea for Bao Yo and direct from London, England, Earl Grey tea for Bart. Earl Grey. Cerberus poured the fresh coffee in his thermos, put the 2 remaining pieces of fudge in it, and then the French vanilla creamer in it. He put the lid on the thermos, gave each younger Reaper the goodbyes they preferred, and left for work. Silence followed Cerberus's departure. Bart took a sip of his now perfect tea and sat back. Crazy old man. Bart sighed, breaking the silence as he looked through the paper. Crazy me, no matter what. I still miss him when he goes. Bart thought as he found the crossword, took the pen that Cerberus always left nearby, and began to do the crossword. You miss him, don't you? Ao asked as she sat down beside Bart. I never said anything along those lines at any point in time, Bart countered. We all miss him. He always returns, though, Bao Yo said as she sat down on Bart's other side. I never said anything along the lines of missing him at any point in time, Bart repeated, rephrasing his statement slightly. You miss him, though, don't you? Ao pressed. I fail to see how this topic of conversation is even remotely important, Bart said, changing the subject with ease. After all, don't we have more pressing topics concerning us? Bart questioned, knowing that they knew what he was referring to. Halloween was rapidly approaching, and though the veil was usually thinner at this point in time, and always the thinnest on Halloween, the veil was unusually thinner than usual. Though the guardians and gatekeepers of every realm, major and minor realms, had made sure to keep the individuals from passing by them to a minimum, there was the occasional dragon that blended in with the barely noticeable illusions to disguise itself, or the occasional fae who looked more humanoid than anyone had originally thought. The gatekeeper of the spirit realm currently had no hungry, withered spirits from the river Styx crossed by him. Excuse me, I burped. Aside from the occasional mischievous fae folk and curious unintentionally destructive dragon, there hadn't been too many incidents with the major realms. It was the minor realms that were concerning. Hell being the most concerning one of any of the minor realms. Demons of all sorts had taken advantage of the unusually thin veil and had caused more havoc than any unintentionally destructive dragon. Cerberus had, on more than one occasion, performed an exorcism of his own on more than one unknowing and unwilling human being. After ripping the demon off of the human soul and making sure the human soul remained intact, Cerberus had always sent the demon back to hell, making sure the human no longer had the demon's mark anywhere on them. Cerberus usually didn't mention those incidents to any of them. When pushed about it, though, Cerberus always replied with, "There are more powerful demons than them." Cerberus was now training them in how he assumed a demon's speed and strength would be. "Let's train with each other, then," Ao suggested. "You can't manage to match Cerberus' speed or strength when he doesn't try, let alone when he does," Bart pointed out. "He also is unsure of how fast and strong an actual demon really is," Bao Yo reminded them. There was silence after that. Perhaps there's a reason so many demons are coming along? Ao asked. What reason would they have? Bart countered. I don't know, Ao responded. Maybe they're searching for something? Ao suggested with a shrug. Bart was silent, considering Ao's suggestion. Maybe, Bart said slowly. Balio and Ao looked at him. If that's the case, what are they looking for? More importantly, though, how do we stop them if they are actually looking for something? Bart inquired. End of chapter 1. Nope, chapter 2 comes next week anyway. As I said, totally not kid-friendly. Already the first chapter has kind of gruesome little details and stuff. But yeah, anyway. Chapter 1 is done. Chapter 2 will be posting next week. If you're interested in any other stories that I do not have written down in my rough draft binders and notebooks, I have a Wattpad account that is the symbol @ ooh, that was a very poor little thingamajigger, @Tempesta771. I have a Snapchat account, just Airdrin Craven, all lowercase, no space. TikTok account @AirdrinCraven2. Yay. Under the name Tempesta Braveheart, what a joy. My Instagram account, Tempesta Braveheart, all lowercases, no spaces, under the name Airdrin Craven, kind of like my Facebook, if you're interested. But that's beside the point. No, I'm not going into detail about that. My YouTube account, which you are currently watching, is Tempesta Braveheart, and as I stated earlier, these are not kid-friendly. Do continue at your own risk. If you are interested in hearing more, then next week, chapter 2 will be up. Alright? Bye. Peace out, Girl Scouts, and enjoy the mental hilarity. Bye-bye.